experience in genetics as well. So collectively, we can have a lively conversation about what the topic was going to be on today. But again, if you're just joining us, um, Dr. Richard, who's a DNA expert in pharmacogenomics, was going to present to us today, but he got called away. So we'll have another conversation, maybe not get quite as deep into the weeds as he may be able to get in it for us, but look forward to that chat here in just a minute. Get a few more people, let them into the room. But always welcome to put your contact information up in the chat so that we can all get connected through that. And I'll put mine up there as well. Right. And then certainly invite everyone to participate with Dr. Bob and myself and Tim Daniels tomorrow or on Tuesday, on Tuesday afternoons. Put that link in there for the Well Wave Now. This is an interactive podcast that we've started and some really good discussions. I missed this week because I was at a conference, but I'm listening to the replay now. So sounds good so far, Dr. Bob, but I only have gotten a little ways in. Did you?
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. Tim and I were in our usual semi-combative mode, friendly fire. It was really good. I always enjoy bantering with Tim.
Yeah, just as long as you don't turn it into a Montel Williams show or something like that.
No way. No, we was all friendly and all great. Yes, we had a good conversation.
Yeah, that's good. Good. So yeah, that welcome everyone to that. And then the hour right before that, Mike Hayes, do you have the link for the that you can share with the group? So right before, so this Well Wave Now health and wellness discussion is at 1 p.m. Pacific, but at 12 noon Pacific time. Mike Hayes hosts a speed networking event that's a lot of fun too. So if you've got that link, go ahead and put it in the chat.
Will do. We had a great speed networking event. It's the first one. It was the launch. And what I was able to do was take the elevator pitch, for example, with my friend Brian Gregory of the Yes Test. I took his 2-minute elevator pitch and I turned it into a 15-minute infomercial testimonial with amazing graphics from AI. So we're doing some pretty cool things and love to have everybody join us. I will put the links in the chat. Thanks, Breck.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate that. So welcome everyone. Good to see some that haven't been here for a while. My friend Scott Lampier has been like playing hooky on us. I haven't seen you in a while, so good to have you back.
I wish he was just playing hooky.
Yeah, I know you've been dealing with a lot of things, and so appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. And great, we'll go ahead and get started. And we are recording this so that we can share it with those that weren't able to make it today. I always get the 10 or 12 notices from folks saying, hey, sorry, I'm going to miss today, so please send me the recording. So we will do that. But Bob Friedenthal and I started this a little, I guess it's over a year ago now, and it's a group that's grown and have some great discussions here. There's well over 60 folks that get the newsletter and find out what the topic of discussion is going to be for the week. But really quite a diverse background. People from law background, science, professors, PharmDs from my industry, PhDs, a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, and leaders in their respective fields. So it's great to come together and learn from each other and share referrals if we have referrals for each other. And that's why we have everyone take the opportunity to present to the group so we can get to know you better. We've had some great presentations here and getting to know what everyone is an expert at. So welcome anyone that feels so inclined to get on the list to present to the group. We have several openings, so just let me know when you're available to present. In fact, we don't have anyone on the schedule for the next couple of weeks. So if you're available, please please volunteer, and we'll get you lined up there. So back before there was all the social media and even the internet, used to have a Rolodex of cards, business cards, right? I'd get to know people, and I thought that was pretty cool that I knew so many people. But man, it's become thousands and thousands of people that I'm connected with now, and so I always thought that was my superpower, that I knew a guy, and now it's become several thousand people or guys and gals that I know now and can connect you with. So if there's someone in my network that you would like to have a warm introduction to, please just let me know. Just go on to my LinkedIn and you can see who I'm all connected with, and I'm happy to make any introduction if there's anyone there. Bob's team, Bob Friedenthal's team has grown that network for me by quite a bit. I mean, well over 4,000 connections that we've connected with, specifically targeting my industry with PharmDs and specifically pharmacy owners. If we can get to the independents, it's a pretty unique time for our industry right now because of how rough it is with their reimbursements. The reimbursements have dropped from 36% on dispensing a medication, which is a fair profit margin, down to as low as 3 to 5% now. So it's pretty hard for these especially the independent pharmacies to stay in business on those low margins. And then you tack on a DIR fee. DIR stands for direct indirect remuneration. It's basically a payer clawback. So the payers will say that, they overpaid their contracted rate, and so they'll claw back that payment, and that is inflated over the last 3 or 4 years. That inflation has grown over 91,000%. Can you imagine that? So I did the math on that. Everybody complains about gas prices. If you have to fill up once a week or every other week, you kind of complain about how much that costs to fill up your tank. I did the math, and the equivalent of inflation and DIR fees to gas prices, it would cost me over $75,000 to fill up my car. Can you imagine? You'd have to take a third and fourth mortgage every other week just to fill up your gas tank. So hand up there, Celine. Good to see you.
Hey, Breck. Question, personal one. Are you a pharmacist? I never asked this question before.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I don't even play one on TV. I've just been on the business side for pharmacy for over 20 years.
Okay, yeah, they should give you an honorary degree, actually, with your ocean of knowledge.
Yeah, I should see if someone would give me that, be honorary doctorate of pharmacy. That'd be pretty cool. And maybe even more coveted title would be, PBM hunter and killer, so if I could take down the pharmacy benefits managers, that would be even a greater title. And I am totally involved in the PBM reform. Even was asked last year to even host the PBM Reform podcast on the Pharmacy Podcast Network. So before everybody had podcasts, the Pharmacy Podcast Network existed. So it's been around for 15 plus years, and even before it was popular to have a podcast, that podcast. So it has over 200,000 subscribers. And last year, the founder, the pod father himself, Todd Erie, asked me to host that PBM reform podcast. So I invite, senators and congressmen in to find out what they're doing, what bills they're working on to try to help reform that industry. But yeah, but thanks for the question. Yeah, not a PharmD like some of our amazing doctors that are here today on this call, but wanted to jump into a little bit about the pharmacogenomics, PGX. Has anyone, I'm going to ask our non PhDs and PharmDs here. Is anyone else familiar with the PGX or pharmacogenomics and what that does? You've heard me probably talk about it a couple of times because of the efficacy of medications. So if you look at even a blockbuster drug that millions and millions of patients have been prescribed, even with the best intention to help with diabetes or blood pressure or lowering LDL or whatever, their efficacy are still only about 30 to 50%, meaning that you've got almost 70% of the patients on that medication. So if there's 3 million people on a medication, there's literally close to 70% of those patients that aren't getting the intended benefit for the medication or what that medication was intended for. But it's okay because they still get all the negative side effects. Those come whether you can metabolize the medication or not. You're going to get all the horrible side effects that go along with that. And Dr. Bob Levine and I have had some fun chats about that we should start a pharma company that just develops just the placebos, just the sugar pills for all of these blockbuster medications, because there's really only about a 10% difference in taking a placebo versus taking the actual medication. Can you imagine offering the patient, hey, this medication that Bob and I have developed, is quite a bit less expensive than the one that was developed by AstraZeneca and Pfizer and Moderna and everyone, so which medication you want. And by the way, this one may only, have a 10% more, effect for you. So I think we could make, billions of dollars like Big Pharma if we came up with a company like that. But that's
and
no side effects.
And no side effects.
That's right.
You said that. That's perfect. Yeah, we need to market that. Yeah, without
Well,
side effects.
it really blows my mind, if I could interject something. Right.
Yeah, please.
Is that I don't understand. Now I really understand what a paradigm is, because physicians in general are in a paradigm where they dispense medication and they just assume that the medication should be taken forever, right? And so they ignore the idea of drug holidays, the fact that people grow into change, and maybe if you wean people off certain drugs after a period of time, the drug is helpful. You take them off it, and you see where they are. That would be really helpful. That's number one. But number two is, if I was a physician prescribing drugs, I would be saying to my patients, hey, look, especially if it's a non-life-threatening situation. Here we have a drug it's a pharmaceutical, highly potent. It has a certain amount of effectiveness. Let's say it's 40%, like with migraine headaches. They're 40% effective at ameliorating symptoms. And the placebo is 30% effective. That's the 10% differential there. So,
yep.
You can either start out with this placebo, which has no side effects, and see how you do, even though it's designed not to help anybody do anything. When people have the right mindset, the right intention, they can get benefit from it, just like this pharmaceutical, which is a little bit more effective and yet has a lot of side effects. The doctor could easily say that without compromising their license. Maybe we would compromise their license because they're sort of regulated as to what they can say these days. But anyway, the offering of placebo for certain conditions is valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Patrick, you have your hand up?
Dr. Bob, sorry I missed your presentation a couple of weeks ago. But I'm coming across more and more conversation where people are either for conventional medicine or they're against it. And I'm saying to them, look, conventional medicine has a place. So does alternative medicine. Or, well, alternative, whatever. And what we need to do is look at and examine the context and see what fits best.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there's some fantastic invention in modern medicine, and as Bob knows, they're about pain relief and all that kind of stuff. But there are other modalities, there are other considerations, and look, it's the balance of thinking. That's what we need is balance. Balance of thinking.
Absolutely. You're absolutely on the same track of what we discuss on the Well Wave Now interactive podcast. It's a place for both, right? And even though you know, Tim, who's one of the co-hosts there, comes from a background of more of a holistic and you know, using bioelectromagnetic energy to improve, you know, circulation and reduce inflammation, and kind of comes from that standpoint. He still is a very firm believer in Western medicine and the need for medications. The way that I separate the two are, you know, the acute versus the chronic. We do a really great job with Western medicine with acute care. So a compound fracture, no amount of prayer and healing stones and you know, meditation is going to put that bone back in place. You know, you need an orthopedic surgeon to get that back in place and make sure that it's set right. Okay. So that's acute. An infection, man, antibiotics, what a wonderful, wonderful blessing to have come across, you know, penicillin and antibiotics to be able to take care of you know, infection. That's acute care. Where we fall down in Western medicine is in the chronic care management, and we do a lot more damage doing chronic care with a chemical, with a medication that patients become you know, dependent upon, versus looking at other approaches like Dr. Bob's approach to, you know, getting out of pain without medication. So Moshe, your hand's up. Moshe, you there?
You have to unmute if you're there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, put your hand down.
All right. So,
well, I would just also bounce on that with when you put them on these medications, but then a lot of it's misdiagnosed as well. So now you have other things that start to get created because of misdiagnosis, especially with some of these autoimmune cases. And so nobody's looking at nutrition as medicine, and that's really a shame at this point, because the nutrition part in our society is toxic. It's just horrible, and people need to start waking up on that. But that's what's causing a lot of this long-term damage. So anyway, I'm just going to drop it there. But
we're going to be talking about that on Well Wave Now next week. Actually, I'm not going to be there, but Breck and Tim are going to be talking about that. I may drop in if I can.
Yeah, no, that's great, and you know, bring it full circle. What we're getting at with the pharmacogenomics or PGX is actually identifying the individual patient's genetic makeup, their DNA, in order to utilize the proper medications that actually work with that patient. So we can eliminate a lot of that 70%, you know, non-effective prescription by identifying which, you know, it's a customized approach to medicine to make sure that the patient can even metabolize. And it might be the right medication, but it was the wrong dose, right? Because they metabolize different than all the patients that were in the study that took the medication. So
well, the metabolism though does depend on the gut microbiome. If the gut microbiome is damaged, then the metabolism is a whole nother can of worms. So there's that just like gets devoid of the conversation. And so until the medical community recognizes nutrition is really bad and they start to address the area, it's going to stay where it's at. And it's really a shame because everybody's so sick they don't even know they're being poisoned, so to speak. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, excellent, excellent. So, and it's of the absorption, right? So it's not even just the metabolism of, somebody metabolizes much faster, another patient metabolizes much slower. It's what actually can be absorbed. But Dr. Morena, you're familiar with PGX. What's a good explanation from your background on the pharmacogenomic side of it?
Yeah, so I haven't worked directly with pharmacogenomics, but I can tell you, it's looking at how our genetics affect the metabolism and absorption and everything that you guys have been talking about of drugs. My experience with it has been mainly from formulary management side. So for example, recently, kind of looking into treatment-resistant depression, for example. I know there's been some discussion in the medical community about how do we treat mental health and depression. And there's so many people out there who are trying all these different drugs and just finding that they're not working. And so pharmacogenomics is definitely something that should be utilized for something like mental health, but it's not currently, unfortunately, covered by insurance. And so, something that I really wanted to ask our speaker today, who's unfortunately not here, is, what is the evidence out there currently? How robust is it? And if it is out there and it's really robust, why aren't the payers picking up on it and starting to cover I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer to use pharmacogenomics testing. It's a cost saver, right? So that you don't have to put patients through trying all these different medications. And what happens is you start with the cheaper drugs, right? You start with the generics, and then eventually you have to move on to the more expensive drugs. So that's been my experience. I'm definitely a big believer in pharmacogenomics, and I hope, we get to a place where it is something that's widely covered for various conditions, not just depression or mental health.
Excellent. And I have an update on that. You bring up a really great a point on the payers covering it. Just wrapped up the big NCPDP conference this week, and that's why I was a little late getting our newsletter out today, but because meetings went all the way since last Sunday until yesterday. And NCPDP stands for the National Council for Prescription Drug Programs. So it's a big annual conference that's held right here in Scottsdale. So luckily I get to sleep in my own bed every night, but still your 7 a.m. meetings to 10 p.m., every day. And so, but some really good information came out of that. And the pharmacogenomics is being covered by Medicare. So our 65 and older can get that test covered if they're on multiple medications, which most of our 65 and older are. And if one of those medications is either a heart medication or a psych med. So to your point, yeah, it shouldn't be just for those, therapies, but for all therapies. But it is covered by Medicare for those two reasons. Now, however, in California, legislation is going through right now that will require the payers to pay for pharmacogenomics testing because of the GLP-1s. So because everyone's on the GLP-1s right now to drop pounds, and that's becoming the most popular prescription out there today. Is the semaglutides, GLP-1s. And so California is actually passing legislation that payers need to cover that pharmacogenomics test so that they make sure that, yeah, that is a right therapy for that patient. And I do apologize. I'm going to turn this over to Bob Friedenthal. I do have a client call I've got to unfortunately jump onto, but and then Moshe's on camera now. I think you have a question, and then I'm going to turn at least the moderator back over to Bob Friedenthal for the remainder of the meeting. But Moshe?
I was listening to Dr. Bob Levine to speak earlier, and I've heard him before, of course. One of the things I think we talk about Western medicine, I'm going to make a different analogy outside of medicine. Many of the companies who sell copy machines could just give you the copy machine because they make more money on the toner and other things you're going to need to service the copy machine that they have an exclusive to sell than the copy machine itself. So I think our companies have been incentivized to not cure, but to treat and allow you to live with the condition as opposed to the treating. Now, before my time, my parents used to mention different names of refrigerators and freezer companies. And why they go out of business? Because those units lasted a long time, a very long time, as opposed to what we have now, which is called planned obsolescence. And I really think medicine has gone in that direction over the past 40 years. And that may be part of the reason why we don't have more cures and just being able to, quote unquote, suck it up and live with it.
Yeah, follow the dollars, right? So before I leave you, I'm going to put one more post into the chat there. That is the longevity program that can add a decade to your life. Sorry, men, we don't do as well as the women, but women can add about 10 years to their life, and men add at least 8 years to your life if you could answer those questions correctly. A couple of you have taken it. Cheryl's taken it, Armand's taken it, others have taken this health risk assessment. Not to share any PHI, but Armand is in great shape. I'll send you your report here shortly, but there was nothing wrong with his. So yeah, he's probably going to be up there in the 10 years longer with his longevity. But free to take that, and welcome you to get those results back to you. Thanks, everyone. And I'll turn it over to you, Bob Friedenthal.
Have a good week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg. Very informative. Always love working with him and what he does. So I thought what might be very interesting, there's a number of people that don't know other people in this group. So I thought it might be newbies or people that have not been around for a while. Why don't you raise your hand or just blurt out who you are and what you do? How's that sound?
Armin, you tell us, Armin. We haven't seen you before. Come on, Armin.
All right, just tell about what I do. Okay. Well, I specialize at this point with all the things I've been doing for the last 40 years, and now I'm into the longevity sector. There's a lot of new science coming down the pipe. So I got certified as a coach in longevity last year. So now my focus is working with business owners, executives, and professionals, people that have kind of let themselves go. They're looking for solutions that didn't quite understand, or they fail with other solutions, to give them science-based protocols, but it's based on very extensive lab work, which is interpreted from two different medical teams. So we have two different viewpoints on it. One focuses on supplements, nutrition. The other one focuses on both, but also can do a prescription if it's necessary. And so then that allows us to have a baseline, and that baseline is reevaluated to see how they're doing. But this encompasses having proper mindset, understanding nutrition, understanding supplementation the right way without wasting money, exercise strategies, sleep and recovery, which is critical, and then also how to optimize your hormones for long-term sustainability. So that's really what I focus on.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Who's next? Who wants to go?
I'll go.
There we go.
So wonderful to be here with you. It's so interesting. I'm like, oh my God, I am in the right place. People are concerned about, our health and longevity and our well-being. My name is Lisa. Again, great to be here with you. I recently retired from working with Tony Robbins as a results coach. And I love doing business strategy to help businesses grow, increase their profits without losing their mind or their values. So I like to look at the life portion, also the business portion. And to give you an example, one of my clients, doctors, I love working with doctors, and again, in the medical and the wellness arena. So after we were working together, she quadrupled her profits, and took at least 4 vacations a year. So we're looking at lifestyle and helping more people. So thrilled to be here. I'll put my information in the chat again.
Very good. Very good. Let's see. I don't know if I've seen Bob Hite.
Yes, Bob Hilke. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay, sorry.
I work with aspirational healthcare, a type of healthcare that you would aspire to. It's an innovative new approach to healthcare. And what we do is we teach CEOs that they have choices that they're not aware of for how they obtain healthcare for their employee benefits. And when we implement aspirational healthcare, we generally cut the healthcare spend for a company in half, which oftentimes that'll double the company's profit margin. Well, at the same time, we significantly improve the employee benefits, so they no longer have to contribute to the monthly premiums. They no longer have deductibles or copays to see their doctor. And in my case, you can see I'm sporting a couple splints on 2 hands. I'm a mountain biker.
Oh, boy.
And I had a little accident. Let me just explain a little bit about the experience that I had with our healthcare that we teach CEOs how to have. It's called direct primary care. It's a subscription to healthcare. And when I had my accident 3 weeks ago on my bike, I broke my thumb. I managed to ride my bike home. I got on the computer, scheduled a meeting with my doctor, had the meeting that day, and the doctor sent an x-ray machine with a technician to my house. I didn't have to leave my house at all, which would have been a bummer if I had to do, because I was in no condition to leave the house. I had wounds on my hands, my knees, a few other places. My helmet fared far worse than I did. But the point of it is the healthcare came to my house, and it's a subscription to healthcare. So it's very inexpensive. And we teach CEOs how to implement this for their employees. And that's just one example of one of the things that we teach them how to do. But the benefit is that they're going to be able to retain their top talent and acquire new top talent, because a lot of times employees shop around for healthcare, for good benefits. And when we implement aspirational healthcare, 98% of the employees say they would never leave their current employer because they love the healthcare benefits so much. Now, in addition to that, I'll just mention my degree is nutritional sciences. And since there's been some mention of health and nutrition topics already in the meeting, I popped a couple of my links of a couple of my websites there for you to look at. The first one, veryhealthybody.com. My server crashed a couple months ago. I was putting content back. It's about 1% of what'll be out there eventually, but hopefully you'll enjoy that.
Very, very informative. Thank you so much. Keith, have you ever introduced yourself to the group?
Not today. I was here maybe a month ago, but yeah, my name is Keith Conley. I am a partner at a wealth management firm called Wealth Teams Alliance. We're located in Irvine, California. I have clients across the nation, and I specialize in business owners with succession planning and family legacy planning over multiple generations. I personally think that as our health increases, there's a lot of variations to our financial plans that need to be considered, things like long-term care and generating income that keeps up with inflation for not 2 or 3 years, but maybe as many as 30 or more years, plus leaving that legacy beyond generations, estate taxes, those sort of issues. But I also think that what differentiates me from a lot of other wealth managers is that I'm very focused on equipping and training that next generation. And I host, or I'm more like a mediator for these families to help the matriarch and the patriarch of the family collaborate and communicate with the family what they want to see done with the wealth. When they pass, the wealth goes from one generation to the next. I'm very tired of seeing, mom and dad, grandma and grandpa work 30, 40 years to build significant net wealth, 10, 20, 40 million, as some of my clients have. And and see, the kids and the grandkids start fighting over it, suing over it, divorcing over it, taxing over it, addicting over it. And it's because in just so many ways that wealth is lost. And I think that missing element is the family meeting, the collaboration that I can help mediate between that older generation and the younger generations.
Thank you. Good stuff. And you put your information in the chat room, I assume?
I did, yes.
Okay, good man. Who has not spoken before here? Anybody?
Mike, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have, Bob, but I'd be happy to talk about something new.
Do you know many of the people here?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, okay. Let's first, not to shortstop you here, but let's first talk about people that have not spoken before. They don't know other people in the group. So if we do that, that'd be great. Anybody here?
Well, I'll jump in for a second, Bob. I've been a member of this group for a long time, but for the last few months, I've been very intermittent in attending just because of circumstances of life. But it's always been a really amazing group of very smart people, and you and Bragg do such a good job of getting topics and whatnot. And my little corner of the world, my company is called Germs RX, and we distribute a whole line of products that are water-based, not chemically based, and FDA approval that we kill germs on contact and for long periods of time without reapplication. And it's amazing stuff. And we can all toss out the alcohol-based hand sanitizers and the awful chemicals that we come in contact with, and use water-based products with superior nanotechnology in there. And I put my information in the chat, and be happy to answer any questions that anybody have offline or online.
I came late, so Scott, if you could put your information again, I'd appreciate it. I'm sorry I was delayed.
No worries.
Here's an interesting question for all of you. AI is the big thing nowadays, right? Raise a hand, not a hand, or a comment. Comment would be great too. What are your thoughts? Mike, you want to go?
Confusion.
Well, yeah, we can create.
Chat GPT.
You're a Chat GPT person?
Yeah, it's an amazing tool. It's a huge time saver. You just need to know how to use it, the right prompts to give it.
Well, one of the things, by the way, that I talk about is that if you notice, Chat GPT comments are always written in third party. So instead of I, it's you should do this, you should do that, right? Isn't that what you get?
It depends on the how you frame your question. If you say, I am so and so, and I'm trying to put together an email to so and so, do it for me, it's going to give it to you in the I format. So you could literally copy and paste. Of course, I recommend reading it over and making any edits as needed, but it will give it to you in any kind of first or third person, whatever you need.
Okay, so that's a lesson learned for everybody. It's how you phrase the question.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I have no technology abilities. I've said this before when I couldn't even download Zoom in my phone. So my wife, now it's my wife, was so ticked at me. And when she downloaded it as part of the password, she included the word idiot. That wasn't the whole password, but there was, there's more to it. And I left it there, said it to give her thrill because I know I could have erased it. But my point is, if we look at if we look at these the same way years ago, people used to use an axe to take down a tree versus using a chainsaw. And if so, that's the way I analogize it, even though I'm not going to be the one to use it. I'll pay Dr. Marino to do it, but I'm not using it. But the point is, if we look at it that way, I don't think it's as harmful as it seems.
So
The only problem is the only problem with it is possible plagiarism unintentionally.
very, very true point. So, yeah, it's always, you know, we're with the advances of artificial intelligence, things are going so fast, and it's going to accelerate. So, you know, when you have AI as a pilot on a jet, that's getting out there, isn't it? Any thoughts?
No, I don't want that. I mean, I want to move forward. I think their inventions have good points and they have not so good points. But as we become more and more familiar and we become more and more confident with it, we will discover the goodness in it. But the idea of a plane or a lorry going along the motorway or a plane at 35,000 feet without a pilot is does not fit my reality, Bob.
Any of you,
Bob, may I add one other point, please, to this? You probably were in the military at the time. I know I'm old enough to remember during the President Carter administration, somehow our system went kabooey and we thought we were being attacked by Russians. And President Carter did not respond with nuclear weapons, even though the computer or whatever
Nope,
showed that that was
froze.
occurring. Yeah, I know he did.
did everybody freeze?
No, just you, Bob.
So
But
it's
you look
me.
good. But you look good, so don't worry about it. Um,
You're back, Bob.
yeah, you're back. The point I'm making is the fact that he used good judgment. I think they called to see if something were going on to find out before he responded. If you use AI to run everything, you don't have that luxury. And that's what scares the hell out of me.
Well, the other thing I was going to mention is that the amount of hacking that is going on because of AI, I've been reading about that. It's enormous and it's going to continue to explode. And I have a favorite story that I tell all the time. So everybody here know who Mark Spitz is? The swimmer, gold medalist, had the most gold medals prior to Phelps. Well, I call him my brother-in-law. He and my brother-in-law are inseparable friends. So my nephew made a video with Mark Spitz in it, and he sent it to me. He said, "You need to watch this interview by Mark Spitz." So I watched it. I called my nephew back and said, "Oh, amazing article." He says, "That was all done by AI. It wasn't even Mark Spitz." So this is the world that we're facing now. How do you adjust to it? How do you keep your eyes open for it? And yeah, I suspect the amount of hacking is going to go right through the roof. You know, when you're seeing jets take off by artificial intelligence with no pilot, that tells you something, doesn't it? I just saw that the other day. A jet aircraft taking off, no pilot. So, you know, we're in for a world change, and I think we all have to keep our eyes very, very far open for this. All right, anybody else not spoken here?
Is it being controlled by a joystick? By somebody on the ground when his
Yeah.
things fly out?
Yeah, it's just called that's called a big drone.
No, I'm referring to the planes that they're talking about doing. Isn't it controlled on the ground by somebody? It's not just on its own taking off.
That part, I honestly don't know the complete answer to that, but my suspicion is no.
Okay.
That, you know, it's the eyes, ears, and joystick of where AI is going to go.
Well, that's a whole different trust paradigm, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob,
Seems a little
there.
shaky to me as a pilot. I'm a pilot. I can't even imagine being on an airplane. It's controlled by the ground. You know? Get it.
It's going to be different, isn't it? And what they're writing about it and what the advances of artificial intelligence is going to implicate and do, I think we need to be very, very cautious process.
We need the human dimension. We need the human dimension. There's a wonderful case just emerged this year where the post office in England, Scotland, and Wales and Northern Ireland, they automated their post offices around the country. And it meant that it became easier to balance the day's activities. But it emerged then that there were two accounts, but they were told there was only one account. One account was easy to balance and the other account wasn't balancing, with the result that the investigators would come to a post office, a postmaster or a mistress, and say, listen, your accounts are not balancing. How are you going to pay back the money? And this emerged that there were more and more people experiencing this, but they kept taking people's savings, charging them, and if the numbers went up to 900. So why didn't somebody say, look, it's possible maybe 1 or 2 or 10, but for hundreds of postmasters and mistresses to be charged with embezzlement, who was in charge? Did somebody say, hold on a minute, this doesn't make sense?
So do you think it's going to go away? AI?
No, absolutely not.
Correct.
No, absolutely not. But what I'm saying is, we need verifiable trust in what is happening. That's what we need, is verifiable trust.
We're watching a series on that this weekend. My wife worked for the post office. She just retired about 6 months ago. And I forgot how many people who were accused actually took their own life because of the stress that I think there's at least 5 cases, maybe 7, besides people. And in fact, someone just sued the post office there. And I think he won the suit, if I recall, on this very topic. It's just been a horrible, it's just a horrible stain on the, on what happened there and the way they handle it. What's even worse, things can happen, but the way it was handled was even worse than the situation that occurred.
You just made me thank you, okay? This is great information because I just wrote down AI trust factor. Okay.
Verifiable trust. We need verifiable trust. Can we trust this system? Can we trust the people who are managing it? Because with the most important, everything comes second to integrity. Everything.
It goes back to President Reagan when he talked about the Russians, trust but verify.
Yes, trust but verify. Yeah.
Well,
I'm curious. Oh,
go ahead.
since we're on the topic of AI, does anybody use it for marketing? You use it for marketing as a
All the
marketing
time.
tool? Yeah.
All the time.
So yesterday I came across a new AI tool that I think is amazing for marketing. Now, my husband is a marketer and I shared it with him and he thought it was a great tool as well. And if you are a business that wants to send out a questionnaire to your clients, this tool is amazing. I was able to build a really great questionnaire that is specific to the business that I'm trying to build, specific to my target audience, with the types of questions that I want to ask. I built it in 5 minutes. And what this tool does it not just put the questions together for you, but it can put it on the landing page for you. It'll have a call to action. It'll generate a results page for you, and it'll even create emails that you can send out to your clients, as well as pages, as well as posts for your social media accounts. And it does it all for you.
What is the name of this AI tool?
I'll tell you right now. It is called Score App.
Score?
SCORE.
SCORE app.com. And it's free as long as you, so it's a tool that's used for lead generation, right? And so if you are somebody who's trying to, say, generate 10 or up to 100 leads a month, then it's free. If you want to go higher, there's a subscription fee. but I believe up to 100 leads a month, it is free.
Marina, do you mind writing that down, the information? Please. Thank you. For everybody, not just me.
Pretty amazing, actually. You think about where, like I was saying earlier, where's all this going? Well, it's going to go wider, deeper and wider, right? It's not going to go away unless the government feels that there's something that is not healthy for people. That's when the government steps in. So,
The funny thing is the government's had this technology for the last 30 years. And so from that standpoint, and it was primarily a military only application until they realized its potential. And so really over the universities and, over the last 3 or 4 years, it's become available to the public. And so from that standpoint, I got a chance to talk to one of the people that was involved with the military and related to machine learning and what is now AI that we're using.
this is all fascinating because just to give you all an understanding, I'm a Vietnam era veteran. And I worked for Alexander Haig, who was the Secretary of State years and years ago. I worked for NATO. I had 2 levels above top secret. Some of the classifications you couldn't even tell people. You were not allowed to tell them what your classification was. I'm sitting in a bar like 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm talking to this gal, retired military, and I said I was with NATO, and she says, "Oh, did you have an atomic clearance?" And I had to think for a second because you couldn't even repeat that term. And so I looked it up, and atomic is no longer a classified term, but I could not even tell people the classification I had. It was so secret. So you kind of weave your way forward in your life, right? And with this AI opportunities that we have, there's going to be a blessing and a curse. And it's going to be very interesting how far the blessing I could take any day, right? The curse, you've got to be very careful. And I somehow I have a feeling at some point the government is going to put some kind of restrictions on there. Because like I was saying, the amount of hacking that is going on because of AI is enormous. And it's only going to get worse before it gets better. Anybody agree with that? O'Shea,
Yeah.
you do? Richard, you do?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating because we're not stopping it. You're not going to stop AI.
Yeah. But I think that goes back to what Patrick was saying about trust. And we need companies to make smart AI that we know we can trust. So I think this is a big opportunity for companies like yours, Bob, in my city, being able to go and know that what you're putting out there is safe, but is also gets the message across,
Well, I wrote down when we were talking about AI and trust, I wrote down a rating factor that the government should, do something. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Well,
Well,
another thing, as a suggestion, sorry. As a suggestion, you don't prosecute the company, you prosecute the CEO, the people who are in charge,
right.
and you hold them responsible.
Patrick, you work for a company that I think a lot of. I'm familiar with it because of a friend of mine named Anthony DeGraff in the United States. But you and I both know that many times companies get messed up by people who are in the company where the president or some of the top brass aren't even aware of what's going on. And now they're held responsible by the actions. So to just put the president on cue automatically, I don't think it's fair to the president or even fair to the company. I mean, I don't want to, I think you're painting a broad brush over an area where you just need a piece of a type of brush for corner molding. And I mean, you could talk about, I mean, we have liability laws for that very reason. I mean,
Yes,
again, maybe
it's
where
a-
you are, you don't have that, but we do here in the United States.
Yeah,
So-
it's a good point you make, but we're now playing a different game, and we need people to be responsible, more so than they ever were.
Let me add, because we're getting to the end of our meeting. Feedback. What are you thinking? You like it? Do we need to pursue it more? Do we need for me to talk to Breck about doing something in our future meetings that deals with trust? What do you think?
I think it would be great to have an AI expert give a talk about, the good and the bad of the AI. I think a lot of it is terrifying, but at the same time, I do believe that if we don't use AI, we are going to fall behind because there are going to be a lot of people who are using it and getting ahead because they are becoming more efficient, smarter with their processes, etc. So, there's good and bad. I think you just need to figure out and, um, where to draw the line.
AI hasn't even been around all that many years, right? And look at the explosive nature of AI at this point. I rarely talk to somebody that is not familiar with AI. I mean, if ever.
Yeah, but if Dr. Lamar is correct, AI has been around for a while, but it's gone now to consumer use. So I would make the analogy of AI
True.
for us as is GPS for travelers.
Sure.
GPS was around for a long time, used, and then now all of a sudden became, I was under President Clinton, give him credit for that. It became useful for consumers. And then when it happened, that's when you had the explosion of the GPS systems.
That's so interesting because we were just talking about it the other day. Thomas Brothers Maps.
Mhm.
You remember them?
I'm old enough to remember this.
One of my good friends was the president of Thomas Brothers Maps. So we're going back, oh my God, at least 30 years. And look what I don't think you can even buy a Thomas Brothers map anymore.
I think you can, and you still need it because there are certain places where you can't, if you can't use cell, you can't use GPS. So you still need it as a backup. I gotta tell you, my experience of watching maps and people opening up it, and I enjoyed watching it, but I know it wasn't realistic. Was watching the Dukes of Hazzard when people came into the area and knew how to get around using a map. I'm thinking, look at those, in those areas, a map doesn't do enough for you in terms of, looking for locations. But yeah, I remember that company.
Well, I think this is a great topic because the future advances lead to more future advances, don't they?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So AI is taking us to a level that we've never experienced. And I think that's a real opportunity to be able to witness that. Anyway, we're a minute over. Great meeting. I would love people to also talk to Breck about some of your observations here, because some of you are on speaking terms with him frequently, etc. But boy, I think we hit something really very, very intriguing and solid and futuristic. So thank you so much for the meeting, and we'll talk later.
Save the chat if you want, everybody. Save the chat. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, there's got to be a ton.
Paul, let me make a suggestion. Why don't you reach out to Breck and suggest that he watch the rest of the meeting that he had missed, so that way maybe he'll pick it up that way.
Yeah,
Good
because
idea,
we record all these meetings.
I know you do. That's why I'm mentioning it. I do pay attention to you.
Nice
Oh,
one,
gee, you're
Thanks,
different
Bob.
than my wife.
Thanks, Bob. Take care. See you, everybody.
Thank you
See
all. Nice
Thanks,
meeting.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye.
See you tomorrow.